Now when one has a car like this, I'm not going to spend time standing outside and explaining why I'm doing this story. It has to be hands behind the wheels. And what we really want to find out is, has the downside twin-turbo engine really spoiled the Carrera S's party, or is it still loads of fun? The biggest change on the new engine is the shift to turbocharging. Done to improve emissions and fuel economy, the new 3-liter engine churns out 420 HP and a whopping 500 Nm of torque. It uses a mild boost and a high compression ratio to make it feel naturally aspirated, and differentiated from the more powerful 540 HP turbo. The new engine also features new tech like preloaded boost for quicker engine responsiveness. You know, what that all translates into is just effortless, easy acceleration. And it just reels the cars in front of me and so quick that I often find I have to restrain myself because I don't realize just how quick I'm going. Once you get the engine into the mid-range, the boost from the turbo gives it a nice, lusty pull. And they said turbocharging would be good. Well, you can tell by the smile on my face that there's no fun with lost here, and it's just pure thrill, the way that spins you to the back of your seat every time you accelerate. Acceleration time takes 3.9 seconds to the 100 mark, but this feels even quicker. On an open stretch of road, it just gobbles up the markers at a manic pace. Still, it must be said that there are no sudden spikes in power, just one long, exhilarating wave of torque. Making it more fun is the PDK double clutch flicking through the gears in the most seamless manner. And the boost button, well, that just gives you a few seconds of full boost to the red line to get you to nirvana. Now, as the road curls and winds in front of me, I realize that this steering is better than the previous electric unit, and it definitely feels more meaty and gives you more feedback. I can't resist putting it into Sport Plus, and with the Porsche active suspension management selected in the right mode, I'm ready to step on it a little more. As you press on, you realize there's a hint of understeer, but the power just helps you neutralize that, and the car just dives into corners with ease. The tail nipping out ever so slightly, with a little bit of drama as you floor it through a corner. Oh yes, definitely, it's still a fun car. It has that characteristic lifting of the nose when you floor it hard and a slight tilt. The rear wheel steering should have made it both more agile and more stable, but the fact that the car is a drop top has made a difference too. Still, this is the characteristic way that a Porsche handles, and that's what makes it more fun. Now, what I find quite impressive, especially for sports car territory, is the ride quality. When I'm going over bad patches like this, it doesn't skip over uneven patches of road. It doesn't really get unsettled. It doesn't crash through the potholes. In fact, it absorbs them quite well, and I think in city conditions, it will be quite practical, even for everyday use. This means that you can add power with a bit more confidence, secure in the knowledge that our roads won't try and rip the suspension off. And Porsche has made this car even more practical in our conditions. You can now raise the nose by a good 40 millimeters and keep it up until 35 kilometers per hour. Well, having a sports car is a load of fun, and driving it on a winding section of road even more so. And what's the point of a convertible if you can't put the roof down, since the weather permits us to? Well, for one, I can hear the audio track a little bit more now. Well, as much fun as I'm having, enjoying the weather, the car, the road, all good things must come to an end, and I do have to stop and take a look at what else is new. The car also has an altered suspension. It now sits marginally lower. The rear 305mm tire has been made approximately half an inch wider to handle the additional torque. And it also gets a few active aero bits like the spoiler that hides away and merges with the rear profile of the car when not in use. There are now new vents at the rear to help expunge the greater heat out of the twin-turbo motor. There's a new lip spoiler and twin exhausts that are placed close together. This is the best way to identify this new car. And don't you just love those mildly domed headlights that remind you of the Porsche Le Mans racers from the past? You do get that aircraft-like cockpit feel when you sit in this cabin, snugly fit into your seat with the large jack that takes center place in the dials in front of you, a host of buttons along the central console. There's some new bits inside here as well, like the flat tablet-like touchscreen that now has Apple CarPlay, the steering from the 918, which gives it a far more sporty feel, and of course this little rotary knob which is there to change between Sport and Sport Plus and your driving modes, and the boost button in the center which gives you that additional power. Little touches that I really like on this interior are this clock that's sort of digital and analog with the second hand that moves around. Pretty interesting. There's now even a new rubberized mat to hold your phone in the elbow box. The cabin remains classy and extremely well built, and the long front seat backs with their integrated headrests are as comfy as ever. So we asked ourselves at the beginning, will the turbo spoil the party? No, I don't think they have, because as you can see by the smile I've had on my face through this story, it's still loads of fun to drive. But it's not to say that we don't miss the naturally aspirated engine. We do. That sense of drama is gone, you know, the surge of power, the sound. This one has changed in character. But the loss in character is not necessarily a bad thing, because power on this one is still strong but more accessible. The ride quality has become a whole load better too, which makes it really more practical, especially in our conditions. And of course, there still is that involving characteristic of the way 911 drives. So yes, there's loads of thrill factor, but it all comes at a price. This one is 1.76 crore ex showroom Delhi, and for the bells and whistles on this S version, you'll have to shell out 20 lakhs more. Is it worth that much? Well, the 911 has always been an iconic sports car, and it still remains so. It is one of the best around.
Welcome back to our drive through Southeast Asia. Earlier you've seen the Duster go through India and Myanmar. It is in the nature of a road tripper to keep moving. And that is exactly what Team Autocar did, as it made its way through Burmese highways driving into Thailand.
So we're finally at the Myanmar-Thailand border. And for the last 40 kilometers or so, we've had a lovely stretch of roads. And the actual reason behind that is because these roads are made by Thailand. So now we're going to cross over, and we'll see you on the other side.
Border formalities took just an hour. As we drove into Thailand, we were faced with something that we had come to forget: traffic. The next day, however, started on a familiar note, stuffing the Duster's roomy boot with luggage. That done, it was time for some local sightseeing. Today is our first day in Thailand, and our first stop here is in Sukhothai. What a great way to kick off our time here. Behind me are the remnants of the Sukhothai kingdom, which flourished sometime in the 13th and the 14th century. They have been beautifully preserved in this lovely park with well-manicured lawns and lotus-filled ponds. Leaving the UNESCO World Heritage Site behind us, we made our way towards Udon Thani. It was a good 500-kilometer drive, but the silky, smooth roads of Thailand made it quite effortless. And with the Duster cruising at an easy 100, the kilometers flew by uneventful. Udon Thani threw up its own little adventure thanks to a tuk-tuk and its enthusiastic driver. Obviously, he couldn't catch up, and soon we were crossing into Laos.
So after driving through Thailand, we've come across some really good highways, and now we're at the border and we've just crossed over into Laos, and we're now going to see what Laos is all about.
Today we have finally made it to Laos, the third country on our Asian road trip. Laos is a beautiful country, primarily Buddhist in religion, evident in the fact that right now we are standing in the national monument of this country, the Phat Luang Stupa. Behind me is a massive reclining Buddha, said to represent one of the 7 stages of Nirvana according to Buddhist culture. Over the next couple of days, we are really looking forward to exploring this country. With more than half a day to spare, we donned our tourist hat and set off to explore the bohemian vibe of Laos. It was really laid back. Even the busy night market was relaxing. We've had a wonderful day in the laid-back capital city of Laos, Vientiane, and we are leaving on this wet morning on a little bit of a nationalistic note with the Patuzai or the Victory Gate right behind us. Now we'll move down to the south of Laos to our next destination and then onwards.
So today we're driving from Vientiane to Savannah Kheth. It's about 500 kilometers odd. The highway is good, well surfaced, but it's narrow, so it's slow progress. But the good thing is that it's a sunny day after a very long time on this drive, so it's really nice.
The roads have been very civilized over here, but a good reason could be, again, our guide Mana, he told us that driving in Laos is like meditation. I was like, okay, and he's like, yeah, because everyone in this country has a very laid-back lifestyle. Everyone does everything on their own time. It's a lot like Goa. And he said people just don't like speeding over here. You know, it's not that the rules are strict or they've been imbibed with a great road sense. They just don't enjoy the whole act of speeding over here. So that might be one of the reasons why it's called for chill. You know, I feel like this road trip has been way healthier than the other ones because normally we have the usual barrage of chips and biscuits and whatnot. But here, you don't get snacks. We just don't get snacks. We get fruits and fruits and fruits or cooked food everywhere. So, you know, it works out well in the long run. The next day's drive to Savannah Kheth included a pit stop at the beautiful riverside city of Thake. Though we made steady progress throughout the day, we reached Savannah Kheth only around dinner time. Whew. I just got done with dinner in Savannah Kheth in Laos, and oh my god, my lips, my mouth, everything is on fire. Food in Laos is insanely spicy.
People love their beer, they love their pork, they love their fish, and come to think of it, it's not that different from Goa.
The next morning, we chanced upon some charming French architecture in Savannah Kheth city center, but sadly had to leave it behind all too quickly. Today's been an interesting day in Laos. We left Savannah Kheth in the morning after exploring these beautiful French houses that dot the city, and we made our way towards Pakse, our next destination here. The drive was very interesting. You know, for the most it was straight, empty roads, bright and sunny, beautiful weather, and then suddenly it starts raining and pouring, cats and dogs. It was just hectic. But by the end of it, we reached here, the Wat Sri temple.
And we come here to the Wat Pho ancient temple, which was built around the 11th to 13th century, and it's got these ruins at the bottom that are just spectacular. So after that, we climbed up this massive set of steps, which just winded all of us.
And the hike was just worth it. If you look around me, the vistas are just so beautiful. The city of Parksay, though, had its own structures and monuments to show off. We are at the Fusa Lao temple in Parksay, and over here, Lao's Buddhist orientation is more visible than ever. This site is home to a gorgeous Buddhist temple, these hundreds of Buddha statues behind me, and one gigantic statue of the Buddha which oversees the entire city, much like the statue of Christ in Rio de Janeiro. Behind me is one of Laos' most important natural monuments, the Khon Thapeng Falls. Over here, the normally peaceful Mekong River decides to take a jump over rocks in a massive avalanche of water. It is intimidating, it is fearful, but most importantly, it is beautiful.
So while we've been driving in Laos for the past 2 days now, the highways haven't been in the greatest of conditions, but we haven't had a pretty rattling experience because the suspension on the Duster is pretty good. And another thing that's really good on the Duster is the brakes. I mean, there's these crazy little dogs all over the place that just keep darting across, and the brakes work really well, and they help us stop in time, and we haven't really had any hairy situations. And even with the gear ratios, your first 3 gears are on the shorter side, and so like when you're crossing through cities and all that stuff, you don't really need to shift too much. You can just stay in third from as low as about 25, 30 and go all the way up to about 60. And that just works perfectly when you're driving around in the city. And then once you're out on the highway, it's got a pretty tall 6 gears. Cruising along here in Laos, now you have to stick to the speed limit, which is 80. And yeah, the car's pretty relaxed, not doing very high revs. Pretty good gearbox. So after 3 really relaxed days of driving through Laos, we're now at the Lao-Cambodian border crossing, and we're going to cross into Cambodia now. So let's see what Cambodia has in store for us.
Entering Cambodia with its dusty roads did not dampen the Duster's spirits, but it certainly filled us with bittersweet emotion.
The 3 days in Laos has been really amazing, and truly the people here are also very friendly. We had a blast last evening playing football with them at Doncom, and
but we must move on, and move on we have. We have finally arrived at the last country on our road trip, Cambodia, and crossing into this country was so simple. Just a few formalities and we were right in. By sundown, we trundled into CMG, home to the majestic destination that would flag our finish. 7,000 kilometers, 5 countries, 3 time zones, and innumerable plates of rice later, we are finally here. The unstoppable drive has reached its final destination.
what an amazing drive it has been, all the way from India to Cambodia. So many countries, so many highways, bad roads, good roads, fantastic roads. It's been absolutely amazing.
and we're here right here in front of Angkor Wat. We can't get the car back there because the authorities have a little bit of a problem with that. So we're gonna sign off here and go see what this temple is all about.
Angkor Wat is the world's largest temple complex. Built in the 12th century, its current state is an ode to the craftsmanship of those who actually built it. As we explored its imposing architecture, surrounded by thousands of tourists, we wondered, with the AH-1 now so accessible, will we see a new breed of adventurous Indian tourists driving to Southeast Asia instead of flying? Well, the Duster Drive has certainly shown them the way.
Jaguar have just launched their all-new XF. This is the car that goes up against the likes of the Mercedes E-Class, the BMW 5 Series, and Volvo's S90. They've launched it at a price of 49.5 lakhs ex-showroom Delhi for the base diesel, and it goes up to 61.85 lakhs for the high-end petrol. Let's take a look at the changes. The biggest change to this car really is due to its lightweight construction. It's 190 kilos lighter than its predecessor. You get the bifunctional xenon headlamps with the typical J-Blade daytime running lights. The higher end version get 18-inch alloys, whereas the lower ones get 17-inch. And of course, you see subtle changes to this car as well. Along the boot, there's a spoiler, which increases and enhances aerodynamics. You get the dramatic startup now, the pulsing start button, which invites you to put this car on, the vents that open up, and of course when the car starts, the gear lever will rise out of the central console. For the high-end version, you get a 10-inch TFT display, you get the 10-inch screen. The lower base models will have an analog display and the 8-inch screen. You get perforated leather seats, you get electric adjustments for the front seats, and it comes pretty well loaded with equipment. Well, the longer wheelbase has definitely opened up more room in the back of the XF, and I can say it's right up there with the competition now. There's a good amount of leg room over here, good amount of headroom. The angle of the seat is quite nice, so you're comfortable over here. Lots of space to stretch out your feet in front of the seat. The seat's wide enough to fit 3 people as well, but legroom would be tight for the third passenger. The XF also marks the debut of Jaguar's new 2-litre Ingenium diesel engine. It will also be offered in a 2-litre petrol variant. How do they perform? Well, stay tuned for our first drive review, which is coming soon.